The most universal feeling I know might just be the fear of not having enough. I spent some time in rural Africa. Our closest neighbor was a grandmother raising 5 children in a one-room hut. Every day, this woman would walk to the village hoping to find enough work to bring dinner home that night. And the children would stay home searching for fallen fruit on the ground. There's a weight that comes with not knowing where your next meal is going to come from. But what's strangest to me looking backward is that the anxiety experienced by people living on the bare edge of survival didn't always seem qualitatively different from the anxiety of many middle-class Americans I know. When I sat in my rundown Ford Taurus in parking lots at night, borrowing free library Wi-Fi, I used to imagine that having real money in a bank account would radically change your experience of life. Well, it turns out it does and it doesn't. It does feel better to know that you can blow an engine gasket, whatever that means, and not be permanently without transportation. But if you're lucky enough to live past 25, you also discover how fast one unexpected illness or hospital bill can change all your plans. You learn how fast rent can rise and what distant wars can do to prices, and how nice it is to have Wi-Fi that you can access from your own sofa. Almost everyone is chasing some number of what we feel we need to feel secure. The trouble is, almost none of us get there. Not to the number, but to the feeling that we're going to be okay. And Jesus has a lot to say about this primal human anxiety and where it comes from and what it costs us. According to Jesus, the problem with worry isn't just that it's unpleasant. The real problem is that worry is a thief that steals our sleep, our strength, our health, and most of all, our choices. The practical effect of anxiety is that many of us who have more than enough spend our entire lives scrapping to secure ourselves against every possible contingency. We're like squirrels that are frantically stockpiling for winter, while a voice inside us shouts, "More acorns, more!" We could stop sleeping. We could never pause to tease another dog. We could spend every minute of our existence mounding up acorns in storage units, and it still wouldn't eliminate the fear of not having enough. And Jesus tells us something that the storage unit people won't. There is no way to squirrel yourself out of this anxiety loop. The only thing that will change it is discovering something new about God. Set your anxiety down for a moment and imagine yourself standing in the middle of a forest glade. Look around you. What do you see? See those birds? They aren't the world's most accomplished workers. And truth be told, they spend a lot of time singing and aiming for the windshields of freshly washed cars. Yet, they rarely go hungry. See those flowers? They haven't kept up with the latest trends. They're wearing the same fashion their ancestors wore 1,000 years ago. But they're still stunning. Things didn't just happen to come out this way. God values those birds. He likes to watch them fly and sing. He loves them, so he feeds them. And not just the good birds that everybody likes, like the hummingbirds and the flamingos. God feeds those ravens that look like they'd kill you if they had opposable thumbs. God feeds the woodpeckers, whose only actual labor is destroying the siding of your house. God values those flowers. He likes their color and fragrance. He loves them, so he clothes them in beauty. God even clothes the one you call weeds and declare a vendetta against. God clothes the ones that bloom only for a single night. God clothes the creepy ones that have a taste for meat. You bring so much more to the world than a bird does. You last much longer than flowers. You're way more quirky and precious to God, even than the penguins. So why do you remain convinced that God is one bad night's sleep away from abandoning you in Siberia without a coat? Why do you still imagine God saying, "Geez, how many times a month does that Dominique creature I made really need to eat?" Worry isn't just pointless, according to Jesus. It's unnecessary. It's strangely blind to the reality right in front of our eyes. God made nothing that God doesn't adore and take delight in caring for. Not a single need is overlooked. God knows your needs before you do. Nothing is more core to God's identity than being a good provider. When you start to get that this is the truth of the world, your life opens up in new ways. You might still gather acorns for winter, but you no longer have to scrimp and stockpile like you're prepping for an ice age. Be compassionate. Be generous, Jesus teaches, extravagantly so, because you can afford to be. You have a Father who knows you and loves you and literally owns all the acorns. So you can afford to open your hands and share your stash. You can afford to spend your strength and energy on helping birth a better world for everyone. To a very large extent, the choices available to us in life will depend on what we dare to believe about God. What would you do if you really believed that God is as generous as Jesus says? Let's hear Jesus' words in Luke 12, beginning in verse 22. Then turning to his disciples, Jesus said, "That is why I tell you not to worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food to eat or enough clothes to wear. For life is more than food, and your body more than clothing. Look at the ravens. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for God feeds them, and you are far more valuable to him than any birds. Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And if worry can't accomplish a little thing like that, what's the use of worrying over the big things? Look at the lilies and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing, yet Solomon in all his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. And if God cares so wonderfully for the flowers that are here today and tomorrow thrown into the fire, he will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? And don't be concerned about what to eat and what to drink. Don't worry about such things. These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers all over the world. But your Father already knows your needs. Seek the kingdom of God above everything else, and he will give you everything you need. So don't be afraid, little flock, for it gives your Father great happiness to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give to those in need. This will store up treasure for you in heaven, and the purses of heaven never get old or develop holes. Your treasure will be safe. No thief can steal it, and no moth can destroy it. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will be also. I'm Meghan Good, and this has been Reading Jesus. If you'd like a discussion guide to aid you in conversation with others or your personal reflection, you can go to patreon.com/JesusCollectiveCommunity and look for the Luke 12 post. Thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes in Luke, and I'll see you next time.